ahead and start.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moses and Emily, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for having us.
Yeah. We're really happy to have you, and I'm really excited to share. I know a little bit about your story. I know about what you guys do, but I'm really super excited to introduce the work that you guys are involved with to those that are watching. Can you tell us a little bit about your first introduction to the slums of Kibera? And it's Nairobi's largest slum, correct, in Kenya?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. That's right. So for myself, I moved in Kibera from upcountry in 1998. And at that time, I was about 16. I just finished my primary school. And I came to stay there with my parents before I joined secondary school. Yeah.
And my first visit to Kibera was on a mission trip with my church youth group when I was about 17 or 18 years old, I think. Yeah, so very different.
Yeah. And so how did you both meet?
We met at Turning Point, the charity
yeah.
where we work,
Yeah.
and we were also attending the same church.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then how long, so then my question would be, how long when you first visited Kibera did you guys then meet? Was it within a couple of years? Was it longer?
No, I came to work in Kenya in 2008, so that was several years later.
I like from my case, when it's after I had joined the Turning Point in 2006, and then you coming for your mission work. It was then after that we met at work, and happened that again we were going to the same church.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about Turning Point. It was started in 2003, and from the website it says it started with a bowl full of porridge and 5 kids. So you guys both got involved several years later. What were your early days like with Turning Point, and what were you guys involved with?
So when I joined first, I joined as a football coach. So doing football and just different age groups of kids, and trying to get to know them, trying to find give them some skills in football. That was it. And it was quite interesting because of just the different age groups that you get to meet, and apart from football, what you share with them, you just get to know more.
I first came to Turning Point as an intern, so I had studied development at university, and then was getting stuck into some real life situations and trying to apply what I'd learned.
And so for those that don't know about Kibera or don't know what it's like, kids don't generally, it's a lot of people. How many people currently live in Kibera?
Oh, nobody really knows, but it's upwards of 200,000.
Yeah.
In what kind of a frame of reference in terms of how much space?
How big is it?
It's
That's
not
a good question. Yes, a couple of square kilometers.
Yeah, a couple of square kilometers. Something like that.
And generally, children aren't. It's not like every morning all of the children get up in the morning and go to school and then come home in the afternoon. So that's a big part of Turning Point, right? Is the education that it provides.
That's right. If you walk through Kibera in the middle of the day when children should be at school, you will meet so many children just on the street playing, helping with house chores, maybe helping their parents in their business. Just wandering the streets and stuff like that.
And so one of the things that I have been fascinated with Turning Point is the pre-education, the preschool part of Turning Point. How does that operate on a daily basis? And do the children get to just come in as they will? Is there an application process? How does Turning Point choose which children are participating?
So we have a center that's set up particularly for those kids who are not yet in formal school. And we admit 30 kids each year. So at the beginning of the year, the beginning of the school year is in January in Kenya. So at the beginning of the year, we kind of open the doors for parents and concerned community members who know some kids and they know about our project, and they just come along and bring their kids. And we have a social worker who works for us, and she has the job of sitting down with every family and hearing their story and trying to gauge the level of need in their situation. And so that's kind of the first step, is just kind of talking to the family. And then later on she'll go and visit the home as well, and see firsthand what their living situation is like and things like that. So we try and focus on the families that have the biggest need. And it's hard to define it with numbers and things like that, but it's just trying to figure out who's going to benefit the most from what we have to offer.
And so how have your roles changed? So Moses, you started with football. What are you doing now? Because you're doing something vastly different.
It's quite so at the moment I'm in charge of a library in Kibera that we started in 2014, and our main focus is the primary school education, our primary school boys and girls. So we've managed just to equip the library with primary school material, and apart from that, like, we have a homework club where kids after school they'll come there. Would give them hand them textbooks that are like being used in primary school, and they would do the assignments from there. And then again, we've managed just to involve volunteers to come in to help the kids with either the reading club or with the assignments, show them like just what to do and stuff like that. And apart from that, the library, we've also sort of like partnered with schools or tried to involve schools in other extra stuff. So we've done spelling competition with them.
Oh, fun!
Yeah, that was like really good, just to get to see, like, kids standing out there spelling these words and stuff like that. We were not sure about like how it would go, because like we haven't had anyone else who's done something like that in Kibera. So when we introduced it, we were like, is it something? But kids were really excited. We had like about 8 schools being involved in it.
That's so great.
Yeah. And then also the library just offers space for any other person who wants just to have some quiet time, do some study or read some storybooks. So apart from it just being like a primary school, people are welcome to drop in, use the facility just to read a newspaper or read a storybook, and just have some quiet time.
And so is that open for any resident of Kibera?
Yes, it's awesome. Open like from Monday to Friday for all the community.
That's awesome.
Emily,
what do you think the biggest consequences? I mean, this is probably a hard question to answer, but for children that don't get educated, that don't have an opportunity to go to school, what does that look like as they go into their teen years and become adults?
I think it's just the cycle of poverty, really, that the education offers an opportunity to break out of that cycle, to not live the same lives that their parents have lived, but to step into something different. So I think if without an education, kids are likely to remain living in Kibera throughout their lives, to be having just a hand-to-mouth life of just trying to scrabble together enough money to have food for the day, and just repeating the same sort of lives that their parents have lived.
You shared, because you handle well, let me ask you first the question I just asked Moses. How has your job and your day-to-day changed? Because it's vastly also changed from doing
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, from being an intern. Yeah, nowadays I'm mostly in charge of fundraising and communications, but also we are both involved in kind of the management of the organization and kind of setting our vision and figuring out like what's going to be the most impactful work that we can do with these kids, and how can we develop our programs to best serve them. So that's the really fun stuff of what we get to do, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like a challenge.
Yeah.
It is.
So in one of your recent blog updates, you quoted Malala, one book, one pen, one child, and one teacher can change the world. Do you guys have any, I know you've got many, but what are some of your favorite examples of kids that have gone through the Turning Point program in different ways? They might not have started at the very beginning, but what are some great examples of children who've been impacted by that concept of one book, one pen, one teacher?
Yeah, I think I would use the example of Ombisa. So Ombisa came to Turning Point from the streets, like he was a street kid basically. He doesn't have any parents. He has an older sister who has at times taken care of him, but he's kind of moved around to different family members and things like this. So he came from the streets, and we got him into the transition program and prepared him to return to school. He went through primary school, did really well, went through secondary school, did really well, and he has the dream of becoming a doctor. He would love to become a doctor. We weren't able to send him to medical school, but he has gone and trained to become a nurse. So he went to train at the Nairobi Hospital Nursing School, which is one of the top hospitals in Nairobi. And he graduated last year. Yeah, he graduated last year as a nurse, and he's working now as a nurse in that hospital.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so his life is on a completely different path, and maybe one day he will become a doctor.
Yeah, who knows?
And so you mentioned the transitions program. Is that something that provides, like, is that something that you guys helped to come up with and implement, or was that it sounds like maybe something that was created as you saw the need for it?
Yeah, like when Turning Point started with the porridge, like it was just a feeding program and just playing with kids and getting to know them and doing some Bible stories and things like this, and wanting to get them back into school. But the first group of kids that Turning Point sent back to school, they really struggled just with that new environment of having to sit and listen to a teacher and not knowing how to hold a pen in some cases and things like that. So the transition program was developed to kind of bridge that gap between having never been to school or having been out of school for too long, to kind of get them to a place where they were comfortable in the school environment.
What do you think is the biggest challenge that you guys face? I know you talked about what's next and trying to determine what has the most impact. What do you think is the biggest challenge that you weren't expecting at this point in your work with Turning Point? That wasn't one I prepped you for.
Okay.
Gosh.
Or maybe I can reframe it too. In terms of someone who might be watching, who's thinking, to themselves, I would love to do something similar. I have a heart for children or a heart for education, or I really want to give back in some way. What's something that you wish you might have known then before you started? Or what's a piece of advice that you could give someone around showing up and using their talents and their abilities to serve?
Yeah, I think one thing that I've learned is that change takes a long time. That seeing transformation in someone's life takes a long time. It takes perseverance, takes patience. it's great to be able to, you know, quote some of those stories of children whose lives have changed. But there are children who are still struggling, and despite, you know, all of the work that we do to help them, you know, there's just challenge after challenge after challenge. And so I think one thing that I didn't realize when we started is how long it can take to see real change in a community, and how it just takes a lot of patience, a lot of just trudging, keep going, and eventually you see glimmers of of hope and of change.
And what would you say, like, how important do you rank for you both together as you're married, you've got your own family? How important is support and like shoring yourselves up in terms of you guys having what you need to go every day and do the work that you've been called to? How important is that support, or having a network that you can rely on?
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge to be able to have the support to go to work every day. And I think it's something that is really interesting in Turning Point, that there are most of our staff at Turning Point are from within Kibera. They live there every day, and they get up and they serve their community, and it's amazing. We live outside of Kibera, and we have people around us who are like, you know, supportive of us and tell us, hey, you're doing a great thing and stuff. Whereas the staff in Kibera, they don't have that all the time. You know, they're kind of going against the flow of, you know, a lot of people in Kibera, rightly so, are really focused on their own sort of like sorting out their own family and providing for themselves. Whereas these guys are getting out there and serving others, which is huge. It blows me away every time. And that in itself is an inspiration to me to keep going, and because they're doing it without without the cheerleaders on the side.
What do you have any add-on with that, Moses, in terms of support, or where you see the greatest point of impact? Even like Emily, you mentioned that a lot of your staff live in Kibera and they're from Kibera. Is that the best way? It sounds like a really I don't know what the word is. It sounds like a really great way to have influence from the inside out.
I think I would agree with Emily. Just like saying, like, yes, I've lived in Kibera and I know what the situation is like. It's not one problem. It's not one situation. It's all like lots of situations that, you know, a family or an individual or a child has to deal with. And, you know, sometimes I look at it from outside and I'm like, if it were me at this point, you know, probably I'll be breaking. But it's also just amazing just to see, like, you know, what God is doing, or what individuals are doing, like Turning Point, just to helping these families, these kids to get better, to get into a position where they can, you know, their lives will be changed, you know. So it just amazes me just to see all this happening, and seeing success sort of like coming out, like the likes of Umbisa, the likes of other, you know, children or families that have grown from that hard situation, and, you know, just shown up and, you know, stand up, you know, strong, and believed in like what they can do. That, like, you know, it's not just a situation that can trap them, but they can do better. So it's an encouragement to me, to us, just to see, you know, us living like in the age of Kibera and them living in the situation. But, you know, I look at the struggles that they're going through. It's quite a lot, but, you know, you show up in the morning in Kibera, meet these kids, and they give you a smile, and you're like, how can you do that? You know, how can you do that? You know, and probably, you know, for some of us who live outside, we are more privileged, I would say, or a little bit privileged. And then, you know, you show up and you're like, I'm like, please cheer up, please cheer up. If these kids who've gone through this situation, maybe they missed a meal last night, but they can afford a smile. It just encourages me. Yeah.
Well, and that was something when we spent last summer, when we came and visited Kenya, and we had the opportunity to actually meet you guys and hang out and have a little picnic. That was something that our kids, my children, really took home with them, that inside of their privilege, that they were able to really realize that there are kids that wake up every day and didn't have a meal the night before, didn't have a quiet place to do their homework. And it's really changed the way they look at what they have. This is another question that I didn't prep you for, but a lot of times, and I think a lot of people that are watching are interested in doing short-term work or volunteering when they live in a certain place, but it might be only for a time. A lot of times people choose not to do that because they don't think that it will matter. That if they don't have a long-term commitment to guarantee or to promise to an organization, that it won't matter. What are your guys' thoughts about that and about volunteerism and short-term service opportunities and projects?
Yeah. I think it's something that can be done really well and can be done really badly. I think it's important to consider wherever you want to go and serve somewhere is to consider that, like the impact that it's going to have on the people you're going to meet there. And especially if you're working with children, especially if they're vulnerable children, like if you're going to work in a children's home or something like that, is it helpful to them to get attached to you for a short time and then you leave? Is that gonna be helpful to them, or is that gonna be a painful thing for them to lose you again? But I think there are definitely ways to get involved on a short-term basis that has a great impact on the organization that you're helping, but also on you as a person. And that the change that happens in you when you're volunteering is something that, though that won't directly help the people that is there, it's a great thing to be changed by that encounter and to live differently afterwards. We have volunteers at Turning Point, like we've had teams that have come to do short-term mission and things like that, and I think we figured out a way to do it in a way that's really good and positive for both sides, for Turning Point and for the volunteers who come. But it's a learning process. It doesn't always work in every situation.
Well, and I know of a lot of people, and myself included, it's hard to find organizations that have figured it out, because a lot of times you do more disruption than you do helping for short times. For someone who is thinking to themselves, I want to make a difference, what's the easiest way that someone can make a difference with Turning Point specifically, or with Kibera as a whole? And I know we'll have links and all of that to share with everybody, but what is the easiest, and easiest isn't the right word, but what is the one thing that someone could do that would have the greatest impact with either the work that you guys are doing or with the children at Turning Point?
We have a prayer team, so we send out an email every month with updates on what's going on with us. And we talked earlier about support, and our prayer supporters are amazing. They're so loyal and faithful to us, and when we have moments where things are really difficult and challenging, they stay in touch with us, and we know that they're praying for us, and God comes through for us every time. So that's an awesome way that people can support us and support the kids in Kibera through prayer. Also giving, can donate online to Turning Point. Everything our school is free. It's free to the children in Kibera, to kids who can't afford to go to private schools. So obviously that has a cost to us. So people can give as well to support the school.
Great. So you guys talked earlier about what's next. Is there anything you can share about what's next in terms of big dreams and goals and hopes that you have for your work with Turning Point?
I think
Moses is like, oh, where do I start?
The secondary school?
Yeah. So after we started the primary school, our next stage is like, what happens next to these kids after primary school? So we've been thinking and talking along the lines of like, getting a secondary school or building a secondary school for these kids, and it's like one of the first priorities at the moment, because is it next year that we're doing our first final primary school exams education, and after that they need to go to high school. So
wow,
it's like really urgent prayer request that's like on Turning Point, and we've been just asking God, like, just open ways for us to get to build a school for these kids, and also just like kind of like take it out of sort of like Kibera, where we can just give these kids a safe environment, a quiet environment, an environment where they will grow without like interference
and the
distraction. So that's like one of our prayer items, and we just
that's exciting.
Ask and seek help.
And so is that planned for next year?
No, we don't have any solid plans yet. We have some land available to us, so it's just a case of figuring out how to build a school. But we're so excited about how well the kids are doing in the primary school, and we just want to keep that quality of education going right the way through to secondary, because we don't want them to be doing so well and then go to we're just gonna wait and see what happens, pushing for that one.
We feel like with the primary school, it has enabled us to have like close relationships with the kids, and we feel like their characters, the behavior, the education, it's like really doing well. So we feel like we can't just let go of them when we know there's something else before they start their own lives. So we feel like if we equip them well, like in secondary schools, then we give them opportunities to join colleges or just better their lives much. That's been our forefront thought about them.
That's amazing. And how many children do you currently have in the primary school?
121.
121 at the moment.
That's a long way from 5 children back in 2000.
We have capacity for 200 kids in the school, so we're still growing. We have a lovely building that we built in 2014 for the school in Kibera, so we're still kind of growing into it. But,
that's amazing. That's so great. I'm so excited about Turning Point and everything that you guys are doing, and I know it's a big thing, but I'm just thrilled to know about it all. Do you guys have anything else that you'd like to share about either your journeys or about Turning Point specifically?
Not really. But I think what I would say is it's just an encouragement to anyone who wants to get involved, like in mission works or in helping or stuff like that. I think one thing that I would say is it's just like go in. There's always that fear of this thing might fail, or even like volunteering, people will be like, oh, probably I have it doesn't make any sense or any help. But I've seen a lot of help, especially like in the library with the volunteers that we're getting. It just makes a difference. Like some of these kids you give them a book, they don't know what to do with the book. But if they have someone who can just come and sit with them, read the story with them, explain to them, like, this story is about that, it's about this, help them to just handle a pen. It's small things, but it just goes a long way. Just goes a long way. Once you just figure, like, yes, you want to volunteer, but in what areas, what areas are you gifted in? Sometimes it's just the gift that you have to share. So my encouragement is just get yourself into the thing. If you feel, if you've heard about something and you think, like, oh, this is a thing that you can try. You don't have necessarily to be good in it, but you can try it, and if it doesn't work, you can link someone else to it. So my encouragement is just
go in,
try it, go in.
I love it. How about you, Emily? Do you have any final parting?
Oh gosh.
Put you on the spot.
Send more people donations.
No, I don't have anything to add. Sorry.
No, that's okay. This has been great. And I think that, like you were talking about, Moses, it's so important to just try something. Feel led. If you feel like there's space in your life, space in your wallet, space to give back to somebody, I think it's important to just act and to do it. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. We didn't talk about this, but wishing you luck. Hopefully by the time this airs, you guys will have your work permits all sorted.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We hope that will come through.
Thank you for everything that you do. Keep up the good work. And we'll be watching for that secondary school. That's very exciting.
Looking forward.
Thank you both.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And for including us.